Well, we're hitting the news again, which means, of course, we got a newsman with the plan. If I tried to give Dan Ronan's complete bio, it would actually run through this music in its entirety. More importantly, it would take up the entire segment. But what do you just say we welcome one of our favorite people and a member of the reconstituted Road Gang and a contributing force to this particular platform, Mr. Dan Ronan. Good morning to you, Dan.
I love the music. I feel like I'm listening to the 1957 Camel Cavalcade of Stars with John Cameron Swayze.
Claire wrote that music as a parody of the CBS News stinger as well, too. Gave it a listen and said, let me take a crack at something.
With Walter Cronkite and Richard C. Hottelit in Paris and Charles Bond in the White House. Now, Walter Cronkite. Thank you and good.
And that's the way it wasn't. Hey, Dan, what's going on, man?
Well, we have an economy that is, I think, stuck. I've been reading a lot of stories and a lot of data, and the impression is that the economy's kind of stuck. We have a housing market that is stuck. Mortgage rates are down 6.3%. Good that mortgage rates are coming down from 7 a year ago. But if you have a mortgage that's in the 4s and you're thinking about refinancing, you're not going to refinance. If you have a house that maybe is a little too big or even is what you don't need, you're not going to sell because you got a mortgage that's in the 4s. If you have a job that pays pretty well, you're not likely to leave because we're not creating 225,000 jobs a month like we were a year ago, 18 months ago, so you're not going to leave. The job market is harder for young people coming out of college, 23, 24, 25, to get into the job market. So the economy right now is stuck, and the term for that is stagflation. Higher inflation, not particularly strong growth, no job growth. It's not a real good recipe, and that's sort of where we're at. And I'm kind of worried where we're going the next year or so.
Yeah, that's the magic word, isn't it? It doesn't suck, but it is stuck. So it's not suckage, it's stuckage. And by the way, you used a word that, like I said, there are a lot of people who want to go back to the 70s. Well, that is one of the biggest words, as you and Dave know, from the late 70s, stagflation. Dan, let me ask you something. Dean Croak thinks a lot of it is to do with housing. Where do you think the principal issue is that's causing this in regards to both the transportation sector and the economy at large?
Well, we need housing to be stronger. We need to sell a lot more homes than we're selling now. We're not moving houses. People who have got houses have got equity tied up in their houses. They're not selling. The real estate market is in a period of real transition, and also the real estate sales industry is in a real period of transition because of a settlement with the realtors group about the splitting of fees for the what was the old 6% fee. The fact that realtors are now not making as much money because they were deemed to be thought to be overcharging, and that so slowed the market because that there's just not as much interest, and the industry is in a bit of a shakedown too. So you've got no inventory. You've got people who were in the real estate industry as professionals leaving the industry. And you've got mortgage rates. Yes, they're still coming down, but they're still higher than they were 3, 4, 5 years ago. And that a big part of the trucking industry is moving products, lumber, concrete, the things that we use to build homes. And we're not making as many homes. We're not making as many new homes either.
There is also the international component as well, and one of the things, I saw some numbers over in Europe, and they are saying that about 26% of people who take the survey basically said that they are steering away from U.S. products now because of the tariffs. So you have that component, and I don't know, 25% of Europeans not buying American stuff. I don't know if it's not as important, obviously, as home building is here, but it certainly is a pretty big chunk of change when it comes down to it. And that's just Europe.
You've also had a big drop-off in tourism
Oh, Lord,
from
yes.
our friends in Canada. I mean,
Hmm.
look at I live along the I-95 corridor, and you hear from restaurants, you hear from folks in the hotel industry that our friends from Toronto and from Ontario, from Montreal, who normally go to Arizona or go to Florida for the winter, because of the animosity they feel that is being expressed towards their country from Washington, they've said, guys, we're just going to stay home. We're gonna stay home. We're going to keep our money in Canada, and there's a lot of animosity towards the U.S. right now from Canadian citizens and from Mexicans who would also be coming into the United States as well. Look at what's happening in the farm community, where now we are seeing farmers saying, I've got soybeans that I've got to get out of the ground. It's now the time of the season where we start pulling the soybeans out, and I don't have the workers to help me get my grain bins full. This is problematic. I think, we've got some real serious issues that need to be addressed.
I think I just saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're much deeper into this than me. I think I just saw, Dan, where the amount of soybeans that China has bought now is zero.
Yes. In soybeans,
Zero.
we were exporting 20%, 22% of soybeans to China. And that market, because of tariffs and what the Chinese feel is, unfair tariffs, they're just not purchasing it. So now you've got those soybean farmers in Iowa, Nebraska, Southern Illinois, all of the Midwestern farming states, that they have lost a big market for their product. Again, very concerning.
Well, there's another component there too. Speaking of, like where is the economy the worst? Let's take those bean farmers, the grain and bean farmers in the Midwest who depend on riverboat barge traffic on the Mississippi River to get stuff out of Missouri, Iowa, down here to New Orleans to go to Europe or Latin America. The last two springs and summers, the river has been so low that they couldn't get full barges down the river. So they'd have to take those soybeans and take them to the West Coast to send them to China. And now China's not buying any. If the river is low next year, as it was the last 2 years, and there's no reason to think it won't be, wow. I mean,
yeah, and then they have to move it by rail
yeah.
from Des Moines to Kansas City to Oakland, which is one of the big ports for exporting agricultural products. You end up having to move it by rail, which is more expensive than putting it on a barge and running it down the 1,500 miles of the Mississippi. So there's another cost. Now, all of a sudden, your transportation costs are 7, 8, 9% more expensive than they were. Also, it takes a little bit longer, and it may sit at Oakland for a while before it's exported out of the country. Again, another concern. So you've got higher costs for transportation. It's a tough time to be in the farm community these days. Many of them are still making money, but they have loans on their property in some cases. They have loans that they will take at the beginning of the season for their planting and for their expenses that they will take, and they'll say, okay, I'll take a loan in February, but I'll pay it back in October, November, and now the notes are coming due.
Texas Bob Murphy told a really great story. He was talking about a farmer went to the banker and he sat down at the desk and says, well, I got some good news and some bad news. The farmer says, well, what's the bad news? He says, well, my crops did not come in this year and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to pay off my loan. And the farmer said, oh, well, the banker says, what's the good news? And he says, well, sir, the good news is I'm going to keep banking with you.
Yeah, well, that becomes the question of, when you owe the bank $25, the bank owes you, but when you owe the bank 5, 6, 8, 9 million, you own the bank, and that's the reverse that's happened there in some cases.
Yeah.
Dan, I want to pivot I want to actually take us out of this conversation as we get a few more moments with Dan Ronan here to kind of just have a little bit of fun. I'm going to read a quote that you wrote. But during the off season and sometimes in the spring and summer, Livensparger is wearing another uniform, that of the United States Air Force. He is an officer serving as a first lieutenant in the 116th Air Control Wing, 107th Battle Control Management Squadron at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia. You just wrote an article for Referee Magazine online. Can you tell folks about this amazing American that you got a chance to cover?
Spent some time with Shane. Shane Livensparger is a major league umpire. He's not as well known as many of the major league umpires because he's only been around for, I think, 3 years now, full time. Shane works 140 games a year. He's finishing up his season now, third year in the league full time, but he is also a full-time member of the Air Force Reserve, and when he finishes his baseball season here in a couple of weeks, he will report to Georgia, and he will Warner Robins, and he will be a full-time air traffic controller during the off season. He works 3-4 months during the off season as an air traffic controller, moving combat airplanes on missions around the world, and that's what he does. A remarkable man, a truly a patriot, loves his country, a very good umpire, also a physical fitness guru. He and his wife own a physical fitness company. They design physical fitness equipment, and he is really one of the people in Major League Baseball for the next 15, 18, 20 years. You will see him in postseason assignments. You will see him in World Series. You will see him in the All-Star games. And he is going to be one of these guys like Doug Harvey before him, like John McSherry, like Joe Brinkman, these names that we saw always on the big games. You will see Shane on the field as one of the umpires working in the postseason because, A, he's really, really a good young umpire, and they're spending a lot of time and effort and banking on him as one of their leaders for the next 20 years. Truly remarkable guy who I don't know how he keeps all the balls in the air. I talk to him, I text him regularly, and I'm like, what are you doing right now? He said, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the ballpark. The job is demanding enough as it is. And then he is now, I asked him and he's also a lawyer.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering when you would get to that, Dan, by the way. I sat there reading, and as I got halfway through, I'm like, wait a minute. When did he find time to pass the bar? What the hell?
Now you've got a guy who's, he's not practicing, but he's got a law degree, and he's an air traffic controller, and he's a major league umpire. I asked him one day, I said, one day for fun, are you going to go to medical school in the off season and become a cardiologist? And he was like, well, no, I think I'm going to pass on that.
Dan, I wonder sometimes if, in fact, when batters come up to bat in the ball game, if every once in a while he sits behind there and goes, sometimes we're just lost. I just ask for justice. Find justice in your heart. Dan Ronan always finds justice and time for us here at Nemo Nation. We love having you on. Hey, by the way, let's see if we can work out a special deal down the line. If we can get you, the good umpire, Dave, and I just to have a long hour conversation together at the end of one of these shows. I would love to do that. I know that you got a lot of stuff on your plate, and that would be a long-term project. But think about it, okay?
We'll see what we can do.
Thank you, Dan. Always good to talk to you.
Bye, guys.